You're doing theater when you should be doing debate, which would be great.
No, it's
not honest. What you do is not honest.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 23 most confrontational talk show moments of each year.
But you've got hordes of people burning down cities and beating old women's brains out every day.
What a ridiculous
They arrest people in England if they defend themselves. That's on record.
For this list, we'll be looking at talk or news programs with notably hostile interactions between the years 2000 and 2022. Did we forget a contentious 21st century talk show moment? Let us know in the comments. 2000, Timothy McVeigh on 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes. Timothy McVeigh went to prison for the Oklahoma City attack in the 1990s. Several years later, 60 Minutes interviewed him about the event. McVeigh avoids showing any remorse for his actions, but he tries to explain himself and his own perspective on the destruction.
I'm just being me. And maybe people will listen. Maybe one of the benefits of me talking to you today is that you'll see that maybe not everything is true that you've heard about me.
Ed Bradley questions the convict about his feelings in an exchange that doesn't pull any punches. The interview touches on contrasts between the subject's war history and his later crimes, in a segment that explores the depths of evil.
So is it fair to say that you were disillusioned when you came back? I mean, is that why you left the Army?
It's part of it. I'm sure something didn't feel right in me, but I couldn't quantify it. I couldn't say what it was.
This is also one of the last major recordings of the prisoner before his eventual execution. 2001, Vince McMahon versus Bob Costas. On the record with Bob Costas. Known as the executive chairman of the WWE, Vince McMahon could spar with the best of them. His appearance with sportscaster Bob Costas includes some of the greatest verbal wrestling in the history of On the Record.
This is the Bob Costas Interrupt program, right?
It's a characterization I think few would share, but it might work for you in this instance.
It worked for me. I mean, take a look at the tape when you play it back.
Right.
How many times did Bob Costas interrupt Vince McMahon before he let him answer the question?
The host questions McMahon about the WWE and his recent misadventures with the XFL. Defending his organization, the executive doesn't take kindly to assertions that the Football League isn't doing well. This comes with an invasion of Costas' personal space as the incisive questions push the guest to the edge.
Shut your mouth and let me answer the question, all right? I'll be happy to answer.
Decades after this aired, it remains perhaps the most famous interview for the sports broadcaster. 2002, Whitney Houston talks about substance use. Prime time. During her lifetime, Whitney Houston was one of the greatest singers in any genre. This interview with Diane Sawyer captures her during a pivotal moment concerning her personal life.
But that's not just thin.
No, what is it? Diane, tell me. Do you know?
It's scary thin.
Sawyer directly asks her about her weight and past substance issues. The singer admits that she once lived in a party lifestyle, but she flatly denies ever doing one thing in particular. This is followed by her saying an infamous phrase that rhymes.
We don't do crack. We don't do that. Your crack is whack.
Clearly flustered by the questions, the performer appears cornered by the interrogation about her potential problems.
I could tell you that I am not self-destructive. I'm not a person who wants to die. I'm a person who has life and wants to live.
While the interviewer presses the issue, Houston doesn't seem to fully convince the broadcaster that she's being completely truthful. 2003, Jennifer Garner, Late Night with Conan O'Brien. It's usually wise not to question a Harvard graduate, especially when they have their own comedy program. Actress Jennifer Garner fails to follow that advice and confronts Conan O'Brien about his vocabulary.
There's a time when you snuck into the room to see what the...
I sneaked into the room. Snuck isn't a word, Conan, and you went to Harvard and you should know that.
The quick-thinking host initially brushes it off with a joke, but secretly plots a comeback later in the show. Garner ends up receiving a lesson from O'Brien with some helpful reference material. With a trusty dictionary in hand, he serves up a memorable finishing move on the unsuspecting guest.
Look right here! Snuck, past and past part of sneak.
The second-hand embarrassment that follows might just be some of the most cringe-inducing in talk show history. 2004, Jon Stewart on Crossfire. The then The Daily Show host Jon Stewart joins the controversial program Crossfire in this clip. Stewart throws caution to the wind as he rebukes his interviewers and the show's format. He doesn't mince words either, directly pointing out the flaws of the operation.
No, you're not too rough on them. You're part of their strategies. You're partisan, hacks.
This leads presenter, Tucker Carlson in particular, to throw in some critiques in retaliation. The segment comes crumbling down in hilarious fashion as the comedian easily dismisses the two personalities.
It's interesting to hear you talk about my responsibility to the, I didn't realize that, and maybe this explains quite a bit,
the opportunity
is that the news organizations look to Comedy Central for their cues on integrity.
Some see it as the interview that eventually brought down the show in its original run. Either way you look at it, Stewart's semi-serious takedown strikes a chord to this day.
I do think you're more fun on your show, just my opinion.
But
Jon Stewart goes one-on-one with his fans.
You're as big a dick on your show as you are on any show.
2005, Tom Cruise versus Matt Lauer. Today, few celebrities had a more exciting or controversial 2005 than Tom Cruise. His antics on Oprah are especially memorable, but it's his time on the Today Show that makes this list for its bad vibes. In an interview that delves into his views on Scientology, Cruise receives questions about his disputed stance on psychiatry and medication.
Clearly you've done the homework and you know the subject.
And you should. And you should do that also, because just knowing people who are on Ritalin isn't enough. You should be a little bit more responsible in knowing
I'm not prescribing Ritalin, Tom.
The questioning also stems from the star's misgivings about Brooke Shields' treatment for postpartum depression.
Matt, I'm asking you a question. Matt, I'm asking you a question.
I understand there's abuse of all of these things.
No, you see, here's the problem. You don't know the history of psychiatry. I do.
Lauer holds strong in an uncomfortable moment that bumps up against the actor's usually positive image. Cruise asserts his views with the dramatic intensity of his finest roles, making for an especially uncomfortable segment on the morning program. 2006, Michael Richards versus the audience. Late Show with David Letterman. After his racially insensitive tirade on stage, Michael Richards appeared on Late Show with David Letterman to apologize for his actions.
Michael, are you there?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Hi, Michael. Welcome to the show.
Hello, hi.
How you doing?
I'm not doing too good.
This doesn't go as planned, as the comedian delivers a statement via satellite that nobody knows how to take. Some audience members laugh as parts of the speech come off like an unintentionally humorous stunt. Guest Jerry Seinfeld even steps in at one point to say that the entire thing is not a joke.
Stop laughing. It's not funny.
Letterman attempts to bring the conversation back to reality in a segment that ranks among the more serious in his tenure as a host.
Did you think that somehow by being outrageous and completely inappropriate that it might somehow make the situation diffuse it a bit or make it seem lighter than it was?
I tried to do that. You don't have the whole thing there with what they're showing.
2007, Rosie O'Donnell versus Elizabeth Hasselbeck. The View. In this segment from The View, the discussion starts with Joy Behar's comments about President Bush and turns into a feud between Rosie O'Donnell and Elizabeth Hasselbeck. This leads to O'Donnell scolding Hasselbeck for her views about the Iraq War.
Did Iraq attack us?
No, I'm saying Al-Qaeda.
Okay, did Iraq attack us, Elizabeth?
Iraq did not attack us,
Correct.
Rosie. We've been there before.
Their bad blood goes well beyond the show, with the on-screen pairing fighting over one of the former's statements regarding the American military. The more conservative panelist mentions that she doesn't feel the need to defend her liberal counterpart, even if quotes are taken out of context.
I just don't understand why it's my fault if people spin words that you put out there or phrases that suggest things.
Not to be outdone, Bill Maher also had a hectic 2007 when he confronted an audience member.
Hey, ouch.
Even with the confrontational aspects of that HBO program, this verbal altercation remains one of its defining episodes. 2008, Ellen DeGeneres versus Mariah Carey. The Ellen DeGeneres Show. Ellen DeGeneres rarely passes up an opportunity to prank her guests. For Mariah Carey's appearance in 2008, the host and comedian finds an indirect way to ask about a possible pregnancy.
The other thing is that people are saying that that you're pregnant. There's rumors.
Don't discuss that.
The singer plays coy and attempts to find the cringy humor of the moment. DeGeneres turns the interview into a test involving alcohol, pressuring the vocalist to reveal the answer despite her objections.
Let's toast to you not being pregnant. If you're not pregnant, then we should.
My goodness. I can't believe it. Why would we toast to that?
Somewhat unsurprisingly, the performer later mentioned the massive amounts of discomfort she felt during this episode. It's also worth mentioning Patti LaBelle's discomfort during a cooking segment on Tyra Banks' show, even though this moment's diabolical nature takes the cake for 2008.
She is causing trouble. Yeah, no, what makes you think I could eat the paper, boo? You eat the paper. No paper. Paper bad, cake good. Okay, next. You're the one that wanted to eat the paper. I didn't want to eat the paper. What's wrong with that?
We can't blame Carrie either because the subtle hints of her anxiety are all over this clip. 2009, Billy Bob Thornton, Q. Billy Bob Thornton takes music as seriously as his movies. In this Q with Jian Ghomeshi interview, Thornton is especially mad about interviewer Jian Ghomeshi mentioning his more famous and cinematic credentials.
Are you reacting to the fact that I said
Yeah, I am. Since you're instructed not to talk about shit like that, yeah, I am reacting to that, yeah.
Things are so dire at several points that his bandmates jump in to save the day. According to the acclaimed actor, he does not want to talk about anything other than his musical group. His grimace says it all, as there's a visible stare down between guest and broadcaster.
What I'm explaining is I'm not trying to be insulting to your musical.
Well, what I'm explaining is we said to not talk about shit like that, and we also said that we didn't want to hear anything about how this is my first love. You wouldn't say that to Tom Petty, would you?
The band leader claims he briefed the show's producers about his intentions to avoid talking about his films, but the message went largely ignored for this segment. 2010, Whoopi Goldberg versus Bill O'Reilly, The View. TV personality Bill O'Reilly brings along plenty of controversy and tension to this clip from The View.
Look at you. Every time I come on here, she's, how did this happen?
Bill, I have a case of gas. That's all that's bothering me. Yeah.
The panel discusses the planning of an Islamic community center near Ground Zero in New York City, with more than a few strong opinions to support each side.
Hold it. Listen to me because you'll learn. All right? Thank you.
O'Reilly condemns the project and makes other generalizations about Muslims that provokes Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar to leave the set. There's been plenty of fights on the program, but they almost never result in someone walking off the stage. Goldberg and Behar return, at which point the former sits in silent protest next to the conservative guest. 2011, Shannon Tweed, The Joy Behar Show. The complicated relationship between Gene Simmons and his partner Shannon Tweed is never more apparent than on this episode of The Joy Behar Show. Looking over clips from their reality program, Tweed states plainly that she's sick of Simmons' rock star lifestyle.
Well, what's going on in that clip? What's going on over there?
He's a pig and I don't like it.
He's a pig?
Okay. And I'm done.
The Kiss bassist points out that they're soulmates even after ample evidence to suggest otherwise. Behar inquires about the musician's possible affairs with other women, leading to a breaking point between the celebrity couple.
It sounds like you have been together a long time. You have your philandering ways? Is that what I'm hearing?
I like that
Is it
word.
true, Jane?
An off-color joke by the rock star finally sends Tweed off the set. Even the presenter appears shocked by it all, confronting the performer about his plans to win back his beloved.
So, here's the problem with a person in my position. A lot of these reality shows are they're I don't know if it's true or not. So I thought that this is a game. Now it turns out that it's really true.
2012, Barbara Walters confronts Chris Christie, Barbara Walters' 10 Most Fascinating People. There was arguably no more feared interviewer in history than Barbara Walters. She was as quick to compliment someone as she was to dish out a hard-hitting question.
That you have been criticized for praising President Obama during Hurricane Sandy. People have said you helped him win. Is this unfair criticism?
Well, I was doing my job.
This interview with then-Governor Chris Christie about 2012's Hurricane Sandy allows for the guest to receive both kinds of questions in equal measure. One in particular shifts the subject towards the leader's weight.
You are a little overweight.
More than a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, if I could figure that out, I'd fix it.
Walters wonders about the guest's overall health in relation to his job, causing a few eyebrow raises from viewers everywhere. Christie fields the intrusive inquiry as best he can, despite the awkwardness of it all.
There are people who say that you couldn't be president because you're so heavy. What do you say to them?
No, that's ridiculous.
2013, Alex Jones gets heated on Piers Morgan Live. This Piers Morgan Live discussion focuses on the issue of gun violence in America, bringing out the passion in guest Alex Jones.
Why do you want to deport me?
Well, we did it as a way to bring attention to the fact that we have all of these foreigners and the Russian government, the official Chinese government. Mao said political power goes out of the barrel of a gun. He killed about 80 million people because he's the only guy that had the guns.
Morgan offers up statistics and the possibilities of regulations while enduring the wrath of Jones's rage. The InfoWars personality goes off the deep end in a rant about U.S. history. As a fierce supporter of the Second Amendment, the interviewee lays it all on the line in one of his early viral speeches.
And I'm here to tell you, 1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms. Doesn't matter how many lemmings you get out there on the street begging for them to have their guns taken. We will not relinquish them. Do you understand?
The presenter watches in horror as he completely loses control of his guest. Also from the contentious year of 2013, one could argue that Sarah Ferguson's interview went as poorly in regards to her scandal.
I'm going to take 5 minutes.
I'm sorry?
No, nothing. I'm just going to take 5 minutes.
However, there's an almost sinister atmosphere to the CNN-based exchange that makes it even worse. 2014, Jordan Belfort on 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes Australia. The Wolf of Wall Street has some explaining to do in this 60 Minutes Australia interview. Asking about Jordan Belfort's new life as a business guru, the interviewer digs into his prior convictions and the financial hardships of his victims.
Do you feel that some of these investors should take some responsibility for what happened to their money?
No, I don't. I think it's a loaded question. I think that the answer, that anyone else could say yes, except for me.
Belfort attempts to prove that he's a changed man, with several well-meaning answers about his positive outlook after prison. The conversation also turns to his personal finances and whether or not he should be paying restitution to those who deserve it. Belfort grows flustered with the investigation and eventually asks for another question.
Is that an attempt to hide your income?
Next question.
I think the peanut gallery is going to start chiming really quickly. We've been audited.
I think you can air what you want here out of this interview. It's done. Oh my God. You got a lot of nerve, boy, I'll tell you.
A similar thing also happens with Joan Rivers in her infamous CNN appearance from the same year. But the particular segment with Belfort is even more tense for its connection to a serious crime. 2015, Robert Downey Jr. on Channel 4. Channel 4 News. Promoting Avengers Age of Ultron in 2015, Robert Downey Jr. sat down with Channel 4 News to discuss the movie.
What difference do you think it makes that he's a self-made superhero?
I think more than anything, I always played it like he's a guy who's in big business that you may or may not have judgment on. He's an arms dealer.
Instead of talking at length about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Downey Jr. quickly realizes that the interview is veering towards his personal life. He gets wind of this and criticizes the questions that aren't about the film. Interviewer Krishnan Gurumurthy ventures forward without realizing that the star really wants to stay on track.
I mean, does that mean you're not a liberal, or that you came out of prison not being a liberal?
Are we promoting a movie?
After the presenter brings up more serious topics, such as politics and prior run-ins with the law, the actor exits the space altogether.
Bye.
Thank you guys. Are you... I'm sorry.
His parting attitude shows that he's not interested in feeding the press with stories about his past. 2016, Wendy Williams on Ellen, The Ellen DeGeneres Show. Ellen DeGeneres puts on a pleasant face for this interview, but it's apparent that there's a disconnect between her and Wendy Williams.
You got renewed for 3 more years. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm grateful.
Yeah.
I mean, you're an OG in this game. You know what it is.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
To make matters worse, the two play a game of heads up where the guest says that DeGeneres looks like Justin Bieber. They brush it off together as a positive, but it's uncertain if this kind of comparison helps clear up any alleged problems between the supposed rivals.
Do I look like Justin Bieber?
No, they have made the equation.
Oh, well.
That's in a good way.
I don't mind that.
He's cute.
This also feeds the rumors that the two have had a feud that's lasted for several years. Long after this clip, Williams weighed in on the negative reports about the Ellen DeGeneres Show with her own bad review of her experience. 2017, Jane Fonda and Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly today. Promoting the Netflix movie, Our Souls at Night, with Robert Redford, Jane Fonda spends the bulk of this interview trying to sell the project.
You two have known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
Long time, almost 60 years.
A very long time. Yeah.
So take us back to that time in Paramount Pictures when you were first getting to know and you're walking down with Bob Redford in front of the secretaries.
The host, Megyn Kelly, has other plans as she pries into her guests' private life. This includes referencing Fonda's plastic surgery, which induces a shocked look from the Hollywood legend. Bringing the segment to an awkward impasse, Kelly presses forward with a compliment that comes too little too late.
I read that you said you felt you're not proud to admit that you've had work done. Why not?
We really want to talk about that now?
Well, one of the things people think about when they look at you is how amazing you look.
Well, thanks.
The actress takes the wheel and brings the focus back to the film in an attempt to salvage the appearance.
Let me tell you why I love this movie that we did, Our Souls at Night, rather than plastic surgery.
Nothing short of professional, the performer beautifully segues out of a sticky situation. 2018, Bill Burr. I Love You America with Sarah Silverman. Sarah Silverman invites Bill Burr onto her talk show, I Love You America, with some surprising results. Both comedians have clashing personalities, but the host mentions that she loves and respects her guest.
Sometimes I read interviews with you, and you talk about everything you hate, and if you added it all up, you would get me. But somehow we love each other. Am I correct in saying that? I think that you love me.
Regardless of her statements, there's still plenty of jokes that happen at the expense of their relationship. Burr largely rejects the usual talk show banter, and this appearance proves that he's not one to conform. He never quite connects to her conversation, and their apparent friendship feels much more prone to fights than any sort of amicable connection.
I just think you like me.
I do like
you. You like me, but we can be different, still like each other.
Yeah.
Thankfully for the viewers, this made for some fascinating television. 2019, Dakota Johnson's birthday, The Ellen DeGeneres Show. In a scandalous appearance on The Ellen DeGeneres Show, Dakota Johnson brings up her recent birthday party, mentioning to DeGeneres that she had sent an invitation despite the host denying it.
Yeah. But I did invite you and you didn't come, so.
This time you invited me?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
How do you know? I don't think so.
Ask everybody.
Johnson presses the issue in rather blunt fashion, nearly grinding the whole episode to a halt. The awkwardness continues as the 50 Shades of Grey actress mentions her favorite comedian.
But Tig Notaro performed at your party?
She did.
She did a set?
She did. It was a surprise.
What did she do?
A bunch of funny stuff.
She's hilarious.
She's my favorite comedian. Other than you.
It's not hard to imagine that the performer and host didn't become close friends after this appearance. 2019 was a year for other intense interviews, such as R. Kelly's blow-up with Gayle King. But this particular moment captured our imaginations even more.
I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this. I gave y'all 30 years of my fam.
2020, Steve Bannon and Bill Maher argue over Trump. Real Time with Bill Maher. Being a former chief strategist to President Trump, Steve Bannon knew what he was up against when appearing on Real Time with Bill Maher.
Okay, Steve, I can't even. But
his interview ends up being as argumentative as expected. After giving the commander-in-chief props for some political successes, Maher still grills the guest about Trump's tactics and his impeachment. There's also several points to argue over regarding his message and the flaws in American politics.
that's mostly why we lose. The Electoral College.
It's called a republic, sir.
It's called a republic with a very flawed foundation. Is it really democratic for one person to
This is what I love about you guys. You've got to whine about everything.
Whine?
Bannon and the host mostly maintain their composure, but the latter still finds time to make a few unsavory jokes. The host manages to let out a controversial final line that sounds like a twisted compliment.
I wish we had someone on our side as evil as you, Steve. It's great to see you. Thank you for doing this.
2021, Sharon Osbourne defends Piers Morgan. The Talk. After Piers Morgan came under fire for his opinions regarding Meghan Markle, Sharon Osbourne decided to defend her friend on The Talk.
Why is it that because I supported a longtime friend and work colleague of mine for years, that everybody goes, if you support him, then you must be racist because he's racist?
She then received pushback from her co-stars about the defense. The TV personality looks largely shell-shocked throughout the episode as she stands firm in her previous statements. As panelists such as Cheryl Underwood express their disapproval, the contentious discussion covers the nuances of racism and Markle's story.
It's that white entitlement privilege that makes it racist upon itself. So if you're saying, I stand with you, how do you address people who say, then you are standing with racism?
This moment eventually led to Osborne leaving the talk program. Osborne felt that her comments weren't at all offensive, and a debate continued about her exiting the show. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. 2022, Ted Cruz gets heckled. The View. An undeniably outspoken U.S. Senator, Ted Cruz generates controversy at almost every turn.
Please welcome Senator Ted Cruz.
Well, they gave you a better reception than the Yankees fan.
This appearance on The View is no different, with the politician facing protests from the audience members. The climate activists want to get across their message, but Cruz mostly ignores them.
Inflation in the United States has one cause and one cause only, and that is when the federal government spends too much money.
Ironically enough for him, the lawmaker had just addressed a recent event where he received a cold reception at a basketball game. He even attempts to keep going until Whoopi Goldberg steps in to shut down the heckling.
Ladies, excuse us. Let us do our job. Let us do our job. We hear what you have to say, but you gotta go.
Needless to say, the entire segment derails in the wake of the shouting. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.